should be ready to go.
Okay, good. All right, then. Well, we'll get started with our program budget committee meeting for today, Thursday, January 5th. So welcome to everyone, and we'll dive right into the agenda here. So let's have the roll call, please.
Councilmember Bartoni,
Here.
Councilmember Ottenberg,
Here.
Chair Garitano.
Here. Okay, thank you. All
You're
right, next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting, which took place on October 5th, 2021. So if I could ask for a motion of for approval of the minutes, is that Councilmember Bartoni motion for approval? Yes.
Yes.
And then a second.
I will second.
Okay. And now we have a motion on the floor. Any questions or comments on the minutes? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone oppose or abstain?
I will abstain since I wasn't at the October meeting.
Okay, one abstention there. So the minutes are approved. And we'll move on to the next part of the agenda, which is the section 4, review of the proposed modifications to fees assessed by the city across all departments. So I will ask if either City Administrator Cross or Director Boonage, you want to speak to that, or
I'll go ahead and Chair Garitano, I'll kick it off, and then Mr. Vunich can jump in. Certainly, Chair Garitano and Councilmember Ortoni, who were part of the last meeting, kind of know what we were working on. Councilmember Ottenberg, this might be a little bit new to you since you're kind of coming in at the end of the process, but the fee schedule that is before you as an attachment to this particular item on the agenda has been put together through a concerted effort by myself, by Director Vunich, and by Economic Development.
We lost you. You're frozen up on the screen.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
yes.
Okay. Councilmember Ottenberg is in the conference room next to me, and he said, I'm frozen up, so it's you. Everybody else can hear and see me. So you might want to come off and then go back in.
Will do. All right.
Okay. He said everybody was frozen, or at least I was frozen, but I thought you could hear me. But anyway, so the fee schedule is a work of a number of people in reviewing our current fee schedule and looking at our proposed fees. It is a result of talking to numerous people here at City Hall, talking to other cities in terms of and looking at their fee schedule and so forth. So what you have before us here is the proposed fees for the individual line items. Mr. Vunich was gracious enough at my request to kind of finish it up. I had taken it fairly far down the field, but then I ran into some other conflicts, and so I asked Mr. Vunich to finish up, which he did a fine job. So at this point, I'm going to let Joe talk about any details because he was working with Tom Lee, our economic development manager, in terms of getting us over the goal line. So with the chair's permission, I'm going to ask Mr. Vunich then to kind of take it from here.
Sure.
Well, thank you, Mr. Cross, and to the members of the committee, thank you for being here tonight. And for the most part, I just want to kind of give you a brief overview. So obviously, almost every department in the city of Wildwood assesses some types of fee for services or products or offerings. And so from that perspective, what we first started to do is just go through the entire list of those charges, fees, et cetera, and look at what we had done, if it had been changed, and then kind of factor in the inflation over a period of about 25 plus years. And so surprisingly or not surprisingly, a lot of the fees hadn't changed for a long, long period of time. And in some instances, we weren't even charging a fee for services rendered, for example, zoning authorizations. So the group, which include Mr. Garitano from the inception and more recently, Mr. Bartoni, we kind of went through them and just discussed them one by one and basically said, is this set by state statute? Can we change it? If it is and we can't, move on. And we looked at every one of them, and ultimately we made recommendations as a committee via the input from the city team members about increasing them across the board. And that's pretty much what you have before you tonight, is just a list of fees that all need to be probably adjusted just simply for inflation, if no other reason other than that.
And as an example of that, goes back to the discussion that we had on Tuesday night at admin PW committee meeting having to do with liquor license. We are basically rewriting the entire code, that section of the code as it relates to liquor licenses. The Missouri statutes have changed, which really necessitates an entire rewrite. That includes our fees. So Missouri statutes has fees, and our fees, and in most cases, differ. Some are higher, some are lower. Our city clerk, Megan Eldridge, is working with our city attorney, John Young, about those fees and making sure they are, to the extent that they need to be in exact alignment with state statute. But if we're able to charge more, so that is one item here that we're still working on, and that'll need some that'll need some additional work. But everything else we've gone through, and we want to present this to you and get your thoughts. Because yeah, we've got inflation going on. We've built in a CPI increase. So, but these rates these are the proposed rates here. So this is showing you what the rate is and what it's going to. Is that not correct, Joe?
Yes, as best we could, we tried to show you the existing fee if there was one, and then what we, as the committee and team members, recommended for an increase.
Right. So, so these are the rates. We'll get to the events, because that's the other component of this. It has anything to do with, and you all have heard, as recent as this morning at the coffee with the mayor, the question becomes about revenue neutral. So we'll talk about that schedule here momentarily, about what events that we can make revenue neutral, and what events it just doesn't work to try to make them revenue neutral. So we'll get to that one, but we're going to focus right now on the fees. It looks like we have lost Mr. Ottenberg. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but he might have logged off and he's logging back in. He is, as I say, because of the 6:30 meeting, he was on site, so he's on the guest Wi-Fi. Travis, is there anything that might be going on with the guest Wi-Fi that you know about?
Not that I know about, Steve, no.
Okay. All right, I'm going to check next door. I'm going to get up for just a moment and see what he's doing, and you guys can just go ahead.
And Mr. Chair, I just want to emphasize that the second column of the the third column of the four columns is the proposed rate. And so that it says proposed rate and assumes a CPI increase of 70%. Travis is, so thank you, Travis. So again, Mr. Chair and Mr. Bartoni, for the most part, Travis is now highlighting what is the proposed rate based upon the work that's been completed to date.
Councilmember Bartoni's got his hand up, and I've got a question too after him.
So, I mean, I have a couple questions, and Joe, if you can answer them, it doesn't matter if it's you or Steve, and Travis, if you can put that back up, that would help me. But so in the third column, like some of it's actually grayed out. Like there's like up at the top, the candidate filing fee is 10, and then the proposed area is grayed out. And why is some of it grayed out when we've already having a fee?
The items at the very top of that third column, those are set by state statute. And so the city can't alter them. Many of those are court-related fees. And as you know, since 2014, the legislature and the Missouri Supreme Court have established pretty definitive parameters on the fees charged through the municipal court system. Steve kind of touched upon that second box that's grayed out, and those relate primarily to the liquor license and some of the other things that are being addressed at this time. And then there are a few that we just don't charge. I mean, like the tow truck, for the most part, we've never collected that fee, so to speak.
Okay. And then,
those-
so we're looking as a city, we're looking at whether we want to collect that or not, just to become consistent with state statute, I guess.
Yes, and certainly we can assess a fee if there's a service. That's, the only parameter that I recall from John Young's presentation on another matter is there has to be a nexus between the service and the fee, meaning that you just can't have an arbitrary amount. There has to be some relationship to the service you provide to the cost that you charge.
Okay, makes sense. And then my second question, if I may, what is a franchise fee? What does that apply to?
Well, years and years ago, we used to collect a franchise fee from Charter Communications. So it was something that related to the allowance of a provider, like in this case, cable TV, being able to conduct business in the city. The state legislature, for the most part, did away with franchise fees, I want to say in the mid-2000s.
Well, actually, the city still does collect
Okay.
franchise fees, so it has not gone away. Now, the franchise fee with the advent of use tax and so forth, and a couple of things are working against that. When the Missouri legislature passed the fact that there's use taxes that can be collected, that franchise fee is being reduced by 0.5% over 5 years. And I think it's that. I'm sorry, that is the utility tax. The franchise fee, we still get. It's 5% of the gross receipts that we get for sales within the city. So it is a revenue source, but that is set by Missouri statute. So that does not change. I think one of the things that I'm noticing here on the schedule, we probably need to have a key or a legend or something, or put some additional verbiage in the gray areas to explain why that is grayed out and what that means. So that'll be one of the changes that we will do as a result of this meeting, as opposed to leaving it blank. That is a little confusing for you all, and it'll be confusing for the rest of the council when they see that. So we'll get that taken care of.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. And then I get two more things if you indulge. So the last item on the list that's highlighted yellow, the zoning authorizations. I mean, I know we have a lot of zoning stuff. Give me an example of what that would be. Is that when somebody's just rezoning a property from one zoning to another, or we're splitting properties? Where's that going to fit?
Mr. Bartona, that's when someone wants to build a deck, build a
Okay.
home, and everything in between. And so we have to do the authorization from a zoning standpoint before St. Louis County will issue a building permit.
Okay, thank you. And then did we, like what we're currently charging for some of these fees, and not necessarily for events, but like a grading fee or this zoning fee, do we know what the net, like what that delta will be for the city, like additional income for the city compared to 21 or 22? Have we done that math?
The only one that I've taken a closer look at, Mr. Bartoni, and then I'll defer to Mr. Cross, is that the zoning authorizations, we on average do about 1,000 a year. So we would anticipate about $50,000 coming out of that just single line item.
Okay, well, that's wonderful. And I'm supportive of all of the increases, and even where it's currently a zero, we're charging a very nominal fee. I don't see any issues with that. So yeah, thanks for listening or answering.
And that, quite honestly, that's probably the biggest line item of all of these. To answer your question, no, we've not, calculated what the net effect would be in the increase in fees line item by line item. We can certainly do that. But none of these line items have the impact that the ZAs, the zoning authorizations, have by going from $0 to $50 per, and at 2,000 ZAs a year, whatever that number may be. That's none of the others even, they pale in comparison to that number.
All right, Don, all your questions answered? All right, I'll take that as a yes there.
Yep, I'm done.
All right, Scott, do you have any questions?
No, I'm pretty much on the same page as Don regarding all the fees that are on this page and support moving forward with them.
So we have some cleanup. We need to clean up those gray areas. We'll be able to lock in the liquor license fees once Megan and John get through that issue. And I think other than that, and we'll clean this up, anything that's lined out, we can eliminate. So this was a good discussion, but when we take this to council, and I don't think Joe, I don't know, we don't have time. Tomorrow's Friday, so we won't have time to get it on the agenda for Monday's meeting. We'll have to defer this till February, I believe, to get this in the format that we want to be able to present to council. Would you agree?
Yes, sir. If that's okay with the committee, I think a few extra weeks and we'll get it right the first time.
Okay.
Right.
And the one question I had, or maybe more of an ask, is I think it might be helpful just to explain how you come up with that CPI increase of 70%. So it doesn't kind of throw somebody off when they look at that large number there.
Right.
I did a bit of a double take when I first looked at it and then thought, well, this must be, over time or something of that sort.
It is
So-
over time, and in fact, when it was put together, as Mr. Vunich alluded to at the beginning of this meeting, some of these haven't changed probably since the inception of Wildwood. So that encompasses the increase over many, many years. That's why the number looks so big, because some of the stuff hasn't changed ever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, it's over 25 years would be like a 2.8 increase annually. So if my math is right. Okay, good. Then with that, I think I'm trying to think of a motion would be appropriate at this point to just say that the committee approves, the proposed fee schedule.
You do need a motion?
I think just to be formal about it and just have it on the record there, I
I'll
think
make
it
the
makes
motion.
sense.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
make the motion.
Okay, so we got a motion by Don, second by Scott. All right, any questions, discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor of approving the motion, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed or abstain? All right, motion passes.
So,
So,
Mr. Chair, as I said, what we'll do is we'll modify it. If you want, we can set up another meeting prior to the February council meeting if you feel that's necessary to go back through the final one. Or alternatively, as opposed to doing that, we could send out the document to the three of you for your review. And if you're good with it, then we'll go with that. But if you feel another meeting is necessary, we certainly can pull that together prior to the February council meeting.
I think that maybe what you could do is send out by email, but if Don, Scott, or I come across questions, then maybe we can just schedule a meeting before that one, just to make sure. But if it comes across and it's crystal clear, we may not need a meeting. Don, did you have a comment about?
No, after hearing Steve's comment when I logged on that this is his 6th or 7th meeting already this year, I'm not adding another meeting to his agenda. So,
So that was the 6th or 7th today, not this year. That's just
yeah,
today.
regardless, yeah, I'm fine with an email.
Well, we haven't gotten our fair share of the program budget meetings, so
Yeah.
we need to get a few more.
Don, you need to participate in a few more meetings. I will have been in at least, I think, 3 meetings with Steve today, so he's probably tired of seeing me.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
All right, well then, again, keeping us moving forward so that we can give Steve and whoever's attending the meeting later some time. I guess we'll jump to the next topic. The part on the agenda, which is the review of the City Wildwood list of events and proposed modifications to them.
That would be Joe.
Well, again, thank you, Mr. Cross, and thank you, Mr. Chair. As you know, we have a robust schedule of events, and that robust schedule of events has come under scrutiny, particularly by some of our residents as well as the mayor, in an attempt to obviously meet the goal of always having a balanced budget at the start of the fiscal year and at the end of the fiscal year. And so from that perspective, there's been a desire on the part of City Council, as well as the mayor and others, to basically look at our events and see where we can basically increase fees to make them either revenue neutral or at least make them more plausible in terms of the expenses we incur. First and foremost, we eliminated, I should say the committee, and when I say we, I'm speaking of the committee and the team members, we eliminated 4 events from the schedule almost immediately. And those principally were the winter sports event at Hidden Valley, which was a very expensive event for us. We eliminated the plein air reception, the Arbor Day run, etc. And so immediately we looked just at the number of events and said, what are those that either have an inordinate amount of cost for the limited population that's served, or those that just doesn't have the level of interest that we thought they would. And so this chart reflects the elimination of those events. As you can see too, from reviewing the chart, there are many events for many years we did not charge a fee. And so that was recommended by the committee members to change. And there are increases in all of the fees associated with our events, even those that are, let's say, less glamorous than some of like the concerts or the Celebrate Wildwood event. We began already doing some testing and we charged the fee for the early childhood recreation program. We went from no fee to $5. We actually got quite a bit of pushback from the mothers of the children, the caregivers. But for the most part, we justified it to them for the things that we do and the cost that we incur. And the numbers are starting to bounce back. And so that's the good news. I would expect that across the board in many of the events, regardless if the fees are agreeable to the committee or not. We'll probably get some feedback, probably negative, regarding any increase, because obviously when you're paying nothing and you have to pay something, most everybody has an opinion. I do want to draw your attention to the bottom line, so to speak, the total annual expenditures. And as you can see, the numbers are substantial. We, under the proposed changes, the number would still be $200,000, just under $200,000. However, if you look at the cost in that column above that total, you'll see that the Celebrate Wildwood event is half of that amount, approximately $103,000 for this particular year. So when you look at the rest of the events, the 12 or more that the city provides, they're generally obviously less expensive and for the most part are the bread and butter that what makes the community, so to speak. But to summarize, we basically eliminated events, increased the fees across the board, and in some instances have already started applying some of those increases. Thank you.
I'd like to add one thing, and Mr. Vunich, he pointed out specifically the Celebrate Wildwood, and these numbers have not been updated as I see now. The 2023 budget reflected a cost of $90,000, if I'm not mistaken, offset by revenue of $30,000, so that the net cost of the city was going to be $60,000. And that's what's in the budget, and that's what we're going to be looking for. So I think these numbers on this particular schedule need to be updated to reflect what's in the 2023 budget. Would you agree, Mr. Vunich?
Yes, we did a few of them, Steve, I could get easy access to, but some of them took a little bit more time. So we'll update them before the final is complete.
Correct. So that number, by going to a net 60, will change that bottom line number a little bit.
Certainly will. And Steve, I was hoping to talk to you today, but Mr. Garitano can explain. We probably had what, Mr. Garitano, an hour discussion with the Wildwood Celebration Commission last night regarding where we're going to increase our revenues for that event.
Good. Because I fully believe that we need better participation. You know, we put on some great events, some really, really good events, from the concerts to Celebrate Wildwood to all these other things. We give away fantastic prizes at our runs and so forth. I mean, really nice sweatshirts, really nice plaques. We do a lot of things that, quite honestly, other municipalities around us don't do. So I think we need to, Joe, you mentioned about pushback, and I think we all can appreciate and understand, but at the end of the day, you know, the residents have to understand that we don't have, as far as I know, we don't have a money tree out back. that we can keep funding these kinds of things, and our revenue sources are limited. So I think we really need to take a hard look at getting better partnerships, with the city, particularly with Celebrate Wildwood.
And to the committee and Mr. Cross, I'll never argue that every penny is spent as best as I would hope it would be. But again, in context, let's remember it's $200,000 for probably 20 total events if you include some of the smaller ones. And for the most part, that's in an overall $30 million budget when you look at capital improvements and operating revenues together. So I'm going to defend the department and the events in that it's not like we're spending $2 million. We're spending a great deal of money, and I'll acknowledge that to all of you. But quite frankly, in the scheme of things, we get a lot of bang for our buck, I think.
No, and those are good points. I can't disagree with you on that.
Thank you.
All right, any questions on this list here? All right, Scott?
Yeah, one question, taking a look at the event Tour de Wildwood. If I look over to the vertical column that's just to the right of the center of the page, I see that the proposed fees to attendees is $50. When I look over under the column labeled recommended change, it looks like there the figure is $30. So I'm sure I'm just not looking at something correctly. What exactly are we proposing to do?
Well, Mr. Ottenberg, that one's a little more complicated because regardless of the fee that we've assessed, almost every dollar of that fee went to the Missouri Bicycle and Pedestrian Association. And as you know, last year that was very controversial.
Right.
So the goal this year is if we hold a Tour de Wildwood, that it will be revenue neutral or positive to the city's operating revenues. So, and the association understands the circumstance, and they've reached out to both the Department of Planning and through the Department of Planning to the city administrator and said that they're willing to work with us on solutions.
Okay.
But at this stage, we don't even have the Tour de Wildwood as a scheduled event yet.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions?
No.
Don?
No question. The one comment you made earlier, Joe, that I agree with completely is like a lot of this is what makes Wildwood Wildwood. So I think we ought to just continue to figure out a way to make sure that these events happen for the public. Chair, are you looking for a motion on this as well? Or
After I ask my
Yeah.
question, after I ask a question here.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, and on that same list, I had a similar question. The first item, the Frozen Feet Half Marathon, it says on the proposed fee to attendees $60, but under the recommended change, it says increase the fee to $50. Is that just typo?
Well, again, we've already increased that fee. And so I believe it's at $60 this year. I'll verify that. I haven't studied the application, but we've increased that fee the last 2 or 3 years in a row. And
Okay.
that's the approach we've taken in some regards, Mr. Chair, is that instead of just dropping like a $30 increase, we do it over the course of a year or two.
Okay,
We will do the same thing with this schedule, and I apologize if there's some discrepancy between the verbiage and that. So we will go through this with a fine tooth comb, and we'll do the same thing. Once we get it all completed, we'll send it out via email to you all with the assurance that everything, the numbers all tie and so forth, and then to get your blessing then. So we'll do the same thing with the schedule too.
all right. And then the one thing I wanted to talk about that might be something we consider. One of the areas where we discussed in the past and we acknowledged it's difficult to manage is that certain events that we do, like concerts, it's difficult to assess some type of fee because, it's difficult to manage the entry points, right? Plus, we feel that just the fact that it's a free concert, people come, is a big part of why people love them so much. But over the past year, one of the insights that I did have that led me to bring this up here is that I've worked with the Lions in the food area, and we give out 850 or so hot dogs at every concert. And the most of the concerts, we run out of hot dogs, and I have the job of handing out the hot dogs for free to every single person. I get a lot of people that come to me thinking that we charge money for them. Like they come and they're like, how much? And I'm like, no, it's free. My perspective on that is we run out of these hot dogs quickly. I've seen people grab 5, 6 hot dogs like it's nothing. We get people then complain that the hot dogs are too salty. People then complain that there's such a long line waiting for hot dogs. And I thought, well, maybe we should charge $1 per hot dog or something like that. It might, at least someone might not grab 6. It might just get 2 this time or 3, because I've seen them come with bags, loading them up. Not everyone, just some people. But I think there's opportunities there where I think we're spending money there, and we don't have any way to control that right now when it's free. I mean, it's first come, first serve, and there's a lot of disappointed folks at the end of the line. So maybe by charging a fee, people will be more conscious of how much they exactly need, and it's only $1 or something. I'm not saying we're looking to make profit on it, but it might help offset some of that cost, because don't we even pay, do we pay the Lions to cook those hot dogs for us too? Plus the
Yes,
materials?
Yes, we give them $500 for that service.
Right, so we're paying
And
for
those,
them.
and those hot dogs, by the way, are expensive hot dogs. Those are all beef. They come from, I forget, Joe, who's the, Henry? Kenrick's. Okay, these are really, really great tasting hot dogs. And you're right. I've seen women, stuffing a bunch of them in their purses and running off and stuff. So, but they are good hot dogs. Some people think they're a little salty, but they are good hot dogs. So, and it costs the city a whole lot of money for those. I don't know.
No.
800 hot dogs is, I don't know, Joe, what, $1,600 or I forget now what the number is, but it's a big number.
Yeah, between the hot dogs and the buns, it's about $1,000.
$1,000. Okay.
So if you charge $1 a hot dog, you at least make 850 back. We're at least, and at least it provides some kind of commitment. Right now it's $1 a hot dog versus just grabbing what you want, and that might help with the line too, right? Because now it's, just a thought, because I know we're never going to be able to charge people coming in and out.
Right.
But there are some things like that. We're already giving away free beverages. We're giving away free chips. I mean, I hate to be the guy that,
yeah.
It's an opportunity. Scott?
So I guess the capitalist in me says, let's not charge $1, let's charge $2.
Well, maybe that might be too much of a jump.
Bargain at $2, Scott.
Well,
Yeah.
I think $1 is easy. I think $1, we might still have to have Square because everybody uses cards, but I think $1 is easy from a change perspective. Or maybe $2. What something that keeps it quick, but at least we're offsetting some of that cost, because I think we're not to the point
Cash
where.
only. We're not dealing with Square. No.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, as Economics 101 tells us, if the price is 0, the demand goes to infinity. So that's probably the reason we're running out.
That's what I'm thinking, because otherwise we're going to keep, and I think what bothers sometimes is that we get complaints and we don't even charge anything for them.
Yeah.
The price is the time you wait to get it.
Well, that's what you do is you remind the customer when they complain it's salty, you say, well, how much did you actually pay for that hot dog?
Yeah, and we did that.
We did have a complaint about that.
We did. Joe and I did have a conversation with saying they're free.
Yeah.
Come on.
So just a thought. I think that might help offset a little bit of those costs there.
Well, to the committee members, we are going to change how we serve food at the concerts. It's a discussion that needs to have Mr. Cross involved along with the department. And eventually something will come back to you. So you can be prepared if residents say, well, what's going on? I used to get free hot dogs. Why are you charging now? So you'll be prepared for any of those questions, but we're not going to have a concert. The concerts will be the same. It's just there's going to be some cost associated with it, so we can manage the expectations a little better.
Okay.
And I do have one comment, and I apologize, I was caught a little flat-footed. So with regards to the list of events, the recommended change is what came out of the department to the committee. Ultimately, the proposed fee to attendees is what the committee recommended. And so although the department said $50, the committee thought $60 was more reasonable. So look at the proposed fee to attendees that has the shaded green column as well. That's what the committee initially recommended. My apologies for not catching it sooner. Sorry for the glasses, but my table's so small, I gotta wear them.
Yeah, Travis, can you blow that up a little bit? Good Lord.
Sure.
Yeah. There we go.
Do you, anything else? Otherwise, I guess we'll take a motion for that, and then that would conclude all the topics. Don?
We'll go ahead and make the motion.
All right, second by Scott, and that's again a motion to recommend the
Yeah.
proposed modifications.
Yeah,
to the
move
list of-
forward with the recommendations. Yep.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Say
Aye.
Aye. All right, that is approved. All right, next, recommendation and action on fee changes, including event items. That last,
Actually, just did that under, as we went through,
Oh.
so
that's what I was wondering. Okay, anything else under other items?
well, if I may, just thank you for coming together so quickly and having the meeting tonight right after the
No
first.
problem.
computer. Steve, Travis, and I appreciate it very much.
Yep.
And thank you for your support of the departments and what we do.
It was another chance for me to be in a meeting with Steve.
Hey, let's go to the next one, Scott.
Yeah.
And
You
I'll
should
wish
at least
you
get a
good
free
luck
hot
with
dog.
that one, and Travis.
Yeah, yeah, Travis is gonna be running that meeting too, so I tell you what, he's handling it with like a trooper, so we appreciate everybody here, so.
Travis, you're the unsung hero. You're the guy in the background. Just like on
Yeah.
the Wizard of Oz, you're the guy behind the curtain.
Yeah, we started at 7:30 this morning and it hasn't stopped, right, Trav? We got one more, so we're going into our 11th or 12th hour, so anyway.
All right.
Okay,
well,
gentlemen, thank you.
Yeah,
all right,
thanks,
motion
everyone.
adjourned.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, Don, and then second by Scott. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, means adjourned.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
all.
everybody.
Thanks,
See
everybody.
y'all.